Peggy 3.
Thanks for joining us again in the boot room. As always, after a fantastic weekend of football, it's time to turn our attention to making you guys better FIFA 13 players. Darren Cross from Match Magazine joins me in the studio. Darren, what's the game plan this week?
Yeah, this week we're going to look at ways to improve your first touch in FIFA 13.
Excellent stuff. There'll be details on that in just a second, but first of all, here's what it is and how it works. First touch control is new to FIFA 13 and adds an element of unpredictability to the game. If it's raining, a pass is played long or too fast, or a player isn't in an ideal position, the ball could skip up or be lost by the receiving player, so you'll need to think about how and when to play that killer pass. So that's fundamentally how first touch control changes the game. So I guess it's just about thinking like a footballer.
Exactly, you do have to think like a footballer now in FIFA 13, and that's really the first tip, is to make the right decision before you've even taken a first touch on the ball. So for example, if you're controlling a defender and the ball's dropping out of the sky, and you've got a striker putting you under pressure, you don't want to be trying to take that ball down on your chest or take a flash first touch and beat the man. You need to be heading that ball away, or if you can, directing it towards a teammate so that you can keep possession and play out. And that's exactly what a real footballer would do in that situation.
Are there any other ways of making sure you receive the ball under more control?
Yeah, when it comes to actually receiving the ball, particularly if you're not sure about how well you'll do it, so if it's a ball that's moving really fast, or if it's bouncing, or if it's wet, you can hold the left trigger down and use any direction on the left stick, and that's going to help you take a really solid touch on the ball. And not a lot of people seem to use that, but it's really, really effective. There's only one slight negative to it, which is that it slows you right down to a stop, in fact. So you lose a little bit of attacking momentum if you're trying to put together a fast counter-attack or something like that. But the payoff is worth it. You basically remove a lot of the risk of losing control of the ball due to a bad touch.
Sprinting is of course a big part of the game, but you should use it sparingly, yeah?
Yeah, and I would say almost never use it when you're coming to control the ball, particularly if the ball is heading at you. So I often describe this as sprinting into the ball, which is something you always want to avoid. So if you can imagine in real life, you're running in a straight line and the ball's heading straight at you while you're still sprinting, the chances of you controlling that are really, really slim, and that's the same in FIFA 13. Sprinting onto the ball is fine. If you're running in the same direction that the ball's travelling, most of the time you'll take it in your stride and you'll be okay, but never sprint into it.
So that's how to control the ball if it's coming at you from various different angles, but of course you can use first touch to create yourself an advantage when attacking goal.
Absolutely, and the key to this is to be realistic about what you're asking the player to do. So in the clip that you can see here, I've used Messi, and as the ball's coming to me, I've used my first touch to turn and beat the marker. Now, I was fairly sure that was going to work because it was with Messi. If I was trying that with a player from a much lower division or a lower skill level, I'd probably first get the ball under control, as we talked about earlier, and then try and do something with it. But with better players, with better control, you can be a bit more creative with that first touch and actually use your first touch to beat your marker.
So what were you doing there to perform that move?
All I was doing, I held left trigger down, and then I performed a fake pass move using the long pass button and the short pass button. And then I held the left stick in the direction that I wanted to go, and it just made Messi take it on the turn in one touch like that.
Now you've got another clip of Messi here, but you're using the right stick only this time, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, and the right stick is another great tool for beating players with your first touch. So as the ball comes into you, you can just use the right stick to nudge it in one direction or another, and again, what you're doing here is you're taking it past the defender in one fluid movement rather than stopping and then having to beat them. But the key is, of course, to be realistic, as we just talked about. Certain players will be fine doing that. The likes of Messi, the top players in the world, but players with less control are less likely to make that happen.
Thanks a lot, Darren. I believe we're out of time, but you will be back next week with more right stick tips.
Yeah, we're going to look at ways you can use the right stick effectively in FIFA 13.
Excellent, look forward to it. Don't forget you can catch Darren every Tuesday in Match Magazine. In the meantime, if you want the chance to play Darren and have your gameplay analysed on this very show, details are on screen right now. We'll see you next week.